So this is good morning, everyone who's here. Some of you will be watching this recorded because you didn't turn up at 8:30. This is a bit of we've only got sort of 25 minutes or so. Hello, Serene. Hello, Jazz. We've only got 25 minutes or so to go through some key information. What I would normally do is have a morning with you guys during Enrichment Week, so I really do how to write a personal statement, and by the end of the morning you're thoroughly bored and thoroughly fed up and thoroughly sick of the sight of me, but you've seen plenty of examples of personal statements and you basically know what you need to do. So I'm just going to go through some of the key stuff, but the things I've got are all shared for you on our team, and I will continue, if needed, to answer questions, and even I'm happy to go ahead and make some more videos talking you through stuff. UCAS itself has loads of stuff. Plenty of schools do not bother having someone like me to say, this is how you write a personal statement, because UCAS tells you, and they have videos on it, they have guides, they have all sorts of stuff. And potentially they're better than what I will say. I would say, yes, that whilst that's true, they also can be a little bit dull. A lot of the people who work for UCAS aren't actually teachers, so their delivery is often a little bit dry. So it's nice to have it both ways. I'm going to go share screen and talk you through the key stuff. So share. Now, if we go to our team again, in posts, you can see in files, sorry, you can see the university advice folder. Do feel free to keep your cameras on, because I'm double screening, so I can still see you and see that you're sort of nodding and stuff, or if your eyes are glazing over. So if you go to the university advice folder, I've just set up a folder for, say, personal statements and applications. So I've got a PowerPoint that I just want to sort of bosh through in terms of a few key points. The key dates I've written there. Now, there is a simpler version of this, but from now, UCAS is open. You can start setting up your accounts, and I will give you some more information about that in a second. September, you've got your mock exams. You've got your proper mock exams, and those. Sorry, I've got more people coming in. Those mock exams will be a part of how we set your predicted grades, and your predicted grades will play a part in where you can apply to. If we're predicting UCCC, you will not be able to apply for medicine. So with the mock exams, it is really important that you take them very seriously. It's not the case that if you get a B in your mock exam, we will refuse to predict you an A. But if you get a D in your mock exam, we'll probably refuse to predict you an A. And I'll talk about that again a little bit later. 1st of October, if you're applying for the really competitive courses, which is Oxford and Cambridge, medicine, or veterinary science, those ones have an earlier deadline than everyone else. So if you're applying for any of those things, can you let me know as well? But your deadline will be 1st of October for your personal statement to be in. That will then give us a couple of weeks to get everything sent off, because we have to get yours sent off by the 15th of October. If you send it off on the 16th of October, you can't go to Oxbridge. First, for everyone else, we tend to say about the 1st of November as a deadline for personal statements, and that deadline means deadline. Lots of people will get theirs in on the 1st of October, halfway through October. Usually by the 1st of November, I've already sent off about 15 or 20% of the applications, but you all must get your personal statements in by November. And then the 15th of November is really when I want to get the applications all sent off. And usually by the 15th of November, I've got about 75% of them sent off. And the other ones, I never send anything off after Christmas. Because you don't look good sending things off after Christmas. If you're pushing it right to the deadline and your application doesn't arrive in the admissions department until after Christmas, they've already seen plenty of students. You look lazy. So sooner is better within reason. So 15th of January is the absolute deadline for all applications, but to be honest, that doesn't mean anything to you, because in 4 years here, I've only sent one application off after Christmas, and that was a very special case. Options for after sixth form, as you know, gap year. We don't know what your gap year might look like. There might be a vaccine and we might all be able to travel the world freely, or we might not. So yes, gap year is an option, university is an option, apprenticeship, training scheme and employment. And I know these are things that Mrs. Edwards talks to you guys about. The UCAS procedure, really from your side, these are the things you're responsible for. Setting up your account, entering all your personal details, choosing courses and institutions, entering your personal statement, checking everything carefully, and paying and sending. What we're responsible for is advising on courses and institutions, giving you a reality check if we need it, if you need it, checking personal statement and helping to write it, entering predicted grades and reference, and then finalising the send off. When you click pay and send, that just goes to me. I then have to actually send it off with everything approved. Now, just a point on our reference procedure. I will spend about half an hour talking to each of you individually when it comes to your references, possibly more. There are students over the years, and the more you talk to me, the more I will give you. If you just sort of, if you make me a very remote figure, I might be a very remote figure, but there are certainly girls who I know for a fact their lives look very different because of the conversations they had with me. And come and talk to me, and you can ask as much advice as you like. I will talk to all of you about your choices, just to make sure that you're applying for the right places for you, whether that be in the form of a reality check or whether it be in the form of, a few years ago I had a girl, Cara, and she said, oh, I'm going to apply for English. And as an English teacher, I said, Cara, what the hell are you talking about? You want to apply for drama? She said, no, but I won't be able to get a job with a drama degree. And I said, you have exactly the same employment opportunities as you would with an English degree. And we got her parents in, and she wouldn't mind me saying all this. And then we looked at universities, and she was torn between Bristol, traditional, Gloucester, new, and University of East Anglia, which is a newer university, but very highly regarded for drama, amongst other things. And she had one set of parents saying, go to Gloucester because it's just round the corner and you can live at home. And you had another set of parents saying, no, you must go to Bristol because you are par excellence. And you had her thinking, I really like the look of UEA. And that really changed the way her whole life will look, I don't doubt. But those conversations we have with you are incredibly powerful, and they're the best. They are hands down my favourite part of the job. They're the most important thing I can do for you. But anyway, our predicted grades and references, they have to be rigorous and they have to have evidence. And the same applies to your personal statement. I won't let you send off a load of old BS on your personal statement because it's wrong. It's not right. I can't let a personal statement go off if you're claiming that you've done this, that, and the other, and I know for a fact that you haven't. And I do have the power just not to send it off. So that your personal statement has to be true, and as does our reference. Our predicted grades, they're based on test data. That means mocks. They are also based on what's called qualitative data. So they are also based on what you've done over the course of the year. The reference is based on qualitative data, what teachers write about you. And it will be positive and it will be honest. The more you get to know me, the more you chat to me about the choices, of course, the better I know you and the more sparkling I can make your reference. So what to do between now and October? I've made a video which I've already shared with you, which I would really like you to watch if you haven't already, and some of you are nodding. It's me just blabbering on about things that you can do to add value, and it's really worth watching that video. And the big word I would say to you is podcasts. Listening to podcasts about your chosen university subject will just give you such an edge, and it's so easy to do. I dip in and out of podcasts, and I'm having a podcast binge at the moment. And when I have time, when I'm looking after Theo and he's palling around, I have a podcast in my ear, and I just learn a load of stuff whilst doing something else. So do research and wider reading / listen to podcasts. Research and visit institutions over the summer. That can be online and virtual, and because of COVID, there is lots of virtual open days and that kind of thing running at various universities. I've made another video where I explain to you how you use UCAS and how you use the UCAS course search. If you haven't watched that, watch that. But that will give you the highlights of particular courses. You will then need to look at each particular university, each particular subject web page at that university. So although we've come a long way from it being in a big UCAS phone book, basically, which is what it was like when my brother was applying for university, or same for you, Mr. Holland, wasn't it? I guess, big old doorstop of a book, and you read through that, and that was the UCAS directory.
Yeah.
We now have lots of automation, but actually you're still where it was. It's just online. Back in the day, you had to pick up the prospectus, you had to turn to the page, and you had to look at that page. It's exactly the same. That's on the internet now. So you do have to specifically read particular universities and think about it. If you're going to spend 3 years of your life there, of course you want to read their page. Of course you want to look at that particular university rather than just let Google highlight it and say, oh yeah, that one, there we go. So you've got to actually dip in there, but watch the video where I explain that in more depth. Now, the UCAS key dates are, you can send your applications off from the 6th of September. Don't, because we won't be ready, but you can. October the 15th, as you know, is that deadline. November the 15th is the deadline for additional information. So if you're doing Oxbridge, they will ask you for extra stuff. And January 15th, the application window closes. So that's the official dates of everything. Now, when it comes to your applications, you need to think about this. You need to think about the maths bit and the quality bit. So you're applying to a subject. Do you have the right GCSEs? If you don't have the right GCSEs, you're not going to get in. Are you studying the right A-levels? Again, it's quite simple. If you're not doing the right things in that way, you will simply be pushed aside and it won't be properly considered. Are you on track for the right grade? So if your predicted grades are CCC and you're applying for someone that wants AAA, they might look at you and they might very well say, yes, we will let you in if you get 3 A's. And there's sometimes flexibility on that. So you can have these ambitious choices. And I haven't got a slide on this, so I should say this now. The way you've got 5 choices, we generally say you should have 2, or at least 1 that's a stretch. You're on track for BBC. ABB is okay. You can have something that you probably aren't going to get the grades, but you might get within 1 grade of. You are welcome to apply for 1 or maybe 2 like that. And then you want 2 which are safer, and you want 1 that's pretty damn safe. You're on track for BBC. You want to probably have 1 choice that's CCC. And what that means is you've got an aspirational choice, a sensible choice, and a safe choice. And you spread that around 5 choices, you are maximizing your chance of getting into university. I always view my job as about maximizing your possibilities. If you're applying for overly ambitious things, your chance of getting anywhere reduces the number of choices that you have. Whereas if you spread your bets, you have the maximum number of chances of getting into university and all of those opportunities. And when it comes to your final A-level grades, some people say to me, but hang on, if I don't get the grades I want at A-level, my life's not going to be ruined. And they're absolutely right. Your life isn't going to be ruined at all. But what happens is it closes off certain opportunities. When it comes to degrees, you've got the first class, then you've got a 2-1, and then you've got a 2-2, then a third, then a pass. You want to get at least a 2-1, because if you get a 2-2, lots of doors just close to you. A friend of mine did a degree in maths, very smart. He wanted to do an engineering conversion course. He was looking at what to do, and he thought, well, I don't want to be an accountant. I probably want to be an engineer, actually. I want to do an engineering conversion course. Well, he got a 2-2. He would have had to, a conversion course would have taken a year or 2. He'd have had to have done a whole 3-year degree to have done that conversion course because he got a 2-2. And the same kind of principle applies to your A-levels. Obviously, the better you get, the more opportunities you have to do other things. And then we have the quality bit. Do you have the right interests? Do you have the right passion? And how can you evidence this? And that quality bit, and actually all of these things are things that you can work on now. I had a student last year who was not on track for the predicted grades she wanted, and then had a conversation with me and said, well, I want better predicted grades. And I said, well, you better do something about it. And 3 weeks later, she spoke to all of her teachers. 3 weeks later, the teachers all said, she has turned over a new leaf. We will now predict her these grades. And they were right to predict those grades because she got them. So that maths bit, are you on track for the right grades? Never too late to do. Never too late to sort that out. Never too late. The quality bit, how can you develop those qualities over the summer? Do your research, do your wider reading. Universities and employers have selection criteria and they are open about them. It's not a secret. If they want you to be doing this A-level, they'll tell you. If they want you to have this result in their IELTS, if you're an
well, exactly, as I'm being loud.
So look at specific universities, each specific course page.
No, because we've got another lesson after that.
Look at each university and each specific course page and see what the criteria are. And while you're researching, you'll be aware of this. Different universities run different courses. So if you do English at Oxford, you study Beowulf, you study Old English. If you study English at University of East Anglia, you can do some creative writing. Which of those appeals to you? If you do medicine at some universities, 20% of your study involves something that isn't medicine for the first 2 years. Is that something that appeals to you? Some medical schools do a traditional single interview, others do multiple miniature interviews. Where do you think you would thrive? Few people apply to Oxbridge, but if we think about Oxbridge, every year students who apply think, shall I apply to Oxford, which doesn't interview so many students, or shall I apply for Cambridge, where I'm more likely to get an interview? And students who often make the choice based on that, rather than I prefer Oxford or I prefer Cambridge, they think, I am more likely to get an offer if they can meet me. And students who think that tend to apply for Cambridge. And that's part of the choice that you might make. But really look at the courses that you're doing. If you're applying for business studies, for example, you're going to do a course that's very, very technical, lots of terminology, or are you going to do a course that's a bit more fluffy, a bit more like marketing and that kind of thing, a bit more leadership training-y? Because different university courses are very different. The same course can be hugely different depending on where you do it.
Mr. Mew, can I just add to that? Can I just say that's really, really important actually to get the course right, and it is really worth just getting your research on that, just to know what you're actually going to do for the next 3 years. Something that used to exist when I applied, and I don't know, I presume it's all sort of on different chat forums now, is to get the students' prospectus as well. Now there's always, and I don't know if they exist in book form, but you've definitely got lots of students' opinions about the courses and the place. And that's often a real insight, because the glossy brochure always tells you the glossy best. But there are definitely some interesting viewpoints from the student side, which are also positive, sometimes really positive, but they're just on the inside, and they give you a really good idea as to whether you really want to be at that place or you really want to do that course. That's all I've mentioned as well.
Absolutely. And there are various outreach things. I'll give you some links to some of those things as well, where you can actually chat to students sometimes. I don't know how well those really work. But yes, look at, and there's loads of internet forums where you can see people's opinions about their university and their genuine experience. I've talked to you about the TEF, the gold, silver, bronze framework, and all that stuff when we've gone on open days together. So I won't talk about that now. Now, when it comes to your personal statement, I don't have time to talk you through all things personal statement-y, but just say this: what aspects of the course tickle your fancy? If you have a particular university in mind, what do you want to learn there? Can you make this sound quite broad so it applies to other universities? For example, if you really want to study the Reformation, could you talk about the Tudors? Now, I say don't mention the Tudors because that's a bit of a cliche. Everyone studies the Tudors if they're doing history. So what aspects of the thing that you want to devote 3 years of your life to have you already learnt about outside of the classroom. That will make you sound interesting. I'm doing an A-level in history and I'm learning about this right now. I very much look forward to teaching whatever you teach me at degree level. Might get you onto some courses, but I've been learning about this and that led me to read up on this, and I think this is suddenly much, much, much more interesting. So the personal statement, cover letter, have a look through these points. I want to leave some space for questions, but just these are some general pointers of advice, which I'll let you read on your own time. But I want to show you this, and again, you'll have to read it on your own time, but this is something I put together that I'm quite proud of, which is a personal statement workbook. Now, I would like to be able to spend a whole morning with us all in the same room talking through this together. We can't. So it's a personal workbook, but there's space for, you can print it out, there's space for brainstorming. Now, I have some example openers. Some of them are good and some of them are crap. And I want you to think about, like this one, I'm fascinated with dentistry because I love to network and build computers. I think that's a banging opening sentence, because whatever they're going to go on to say is probably going to be really smart. It might be rubbish. It might be that they really should be applying for computer science, not dentistry. But I reckon that person has grabbed my attention as an admissions tutor and is about to say something really, and show how smart they are and how broad their mind is. But that could go the other way, of course. Now, these three are three imaginary. There's an imaginary person called Guy Summers with a bit of a checkered history. You can listen to the radio program. I've got a link in there for you to look at. But this is this lady, radio presenter. She wrote a personal statement, and then she showed it to a head of sixth form and to a high court judge. This is the version written by the head of sixth form, and this is the version written by a high court judge. She's applying for law. Which do you reckon got in when she showed it to a law admissions tutor? The radio presenter, the high court judge, or the head of sixth form?
High court judge.
Yes, it should have been the high court judge, but it wasn't. The head of sixth form wrote the personal statement that got him into university. Because there are certain ways that we hit these things, but that's an interesting one to look at. Now, I've got a few different ones. These are good, a Cambridge applicant, an Oxbridge applicant. This is a successful Cambridge application. And this is someone who was in my tutor group at my old school. This is a banging personal statement. And this is someone with a broad mind, with a broad interest, who takes knowledge from outside of biology and applies it to biology. And at Cambridge, they would absolutely want some of him on their course. They wouldn't want all of their students to be like him, because he's an odd bod, but they would definitely want some of them to be like him. Now this one, I never got the, I asked this student, also my tutor, I asked him for his first draft of the personal statement after I didn't have a copy of it, and he never got back to me. It was the worst first draft of a personal statement I had ever read. It basically read, I am doing psychology and some other stuff at A-level, and psychology is the least boring, and I definitely wouldn't get into psychology at university, so I want to apply for criminology because that looks like the most similar sort of thing to psychology. So that was kind of what he wrote, and grinned and said, I've done it. 3 or 4 drafts later, he produced this. Now, this is someone who's getting CCD, so he's not an Oxbridge applicant at all. He got an unconditional offer. So this is a personal statement which I'm very proud of, and as a student I'm very proud of. The first draft was a model of how not to write it, but then actually what we got here was someone who really demonstrated a genuine interest in the subject. So there's a Cambridge application showing his outside interest, and here is a non-Cambridge application showing his outside interest, and they actually do quite similar things. So those two I'd really like to sort of to cast your eyes to, and I just have a couple more examples that you can look at if you want to. And then the final thing, I have these keywords, and the point I'd like to make is any university you apply to will have particular qualities they're looking for. And those qualities will involve particular keywords. So how can you tick some of those boxes? What are some of the power words that you might use in your personal statement? I'm aware I've covered quite a lot quite quickly, so I've recorded this. You can watch some of this back if you want, but also the PowerPoints and this are on the files, and you definitely should look at them. Does anyone have any questions? We've got a couple of minutes if anyone wants to ask anything. Catherine.
Mr. Muir, can you apply for 2 different degrees, or do you have to apply for 1 degree 5 times?
That's an excellent question. You can apply for 5 different courses, and there's no limit to what different courses you can apply for, but your personal statement is the same every time. So you have 1 personal statement, but 5 choices. So if you're applying for, and this happens, sometimes people apply for business and marketing and business. Sometimes people apply for media and communication, or media and the visual arts. You keep it a little bit broad. And if you're doing a mixed honours degree, if you're an admissions tutor looking at a mixed honours, you know that some of your applicants will sometimes be applying for just business, and sometimes it'll be business and French. And that's a thing, they know that. So I can help you with that. It makes it a bit harder, but it's okay. Any other questions?
Will we be able to contact you in summer? Like, you know, you say like first draft has to be in by a certain date. Like, what happens if we're like really bad at it and we need your help?
I don't, to be honest, I don't know if I'm going to be furloughed over the summer, in which case I won't be able to reply to emails. But at the end of summer, I will definitely not be furloughed. So if you want to send me something, but the way that works is you come back after summer, you need to have written, sorry, and I really should make this clear. You must write your first draft of the personal statement over the summer. First day back, we will be working on those. So even if it's rubbish, your first draft of the personal statement is done. Just to clarify, I ask that everyone puts together a UCAS package this year. You don't have to click pay and send at the end of the year. You don't have to actually apply, and I'm not going to force you to do anything you don't want to do, but you do have to at least go through the motions so that you know how it works. I've just had a lovely phone call with Lily, who left at the end of last year, who didn't want to apply and has now decided to apply, and going through the motions this year means that if you change your mind, you know how to do it in the future. So you must, really key point, you must produce a draft of your personal statement for the 1st of September, although that might look pretty ropey. And then you take it to your tutors, and your tutors work on it with you, and after they've worked it with you and your subject users, then you give it to me and I work at it with you. So there's layers and layers of improvement that go on.
Mr. Muir, you're recording this, and I know that I only sent Christina some stuff so that she could join a bit later. For other people who joined a bit late, where are you keeping this recording?
This is going to be in the UCAS bit. So in the Year 12 files, I'll save it in this personal statement file. So in university advice, I will save it. Well, I'll save it in the main folder there.
Thanks. Great.
Okay, it's 9:01, so I'll let you all go. Do please get in touch if you have any questions. I'm really happy to make additional videos that you can watch in your own time as well to talk you through stuff. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. Nice to see you all.
Thank you.